All right, so for today's video, we are going to be taking a look at some of Ridgid's compact pipe cutters. Now, the model numbers for the two that you see here are 101 for the larger version, and for the little small guy, you have 104. Now, these are aluminum and work great for when you are working in tight or a compact space where you can't get a traditional larger size pipe cutter in. Now, the Model 101 goes from 1/4 inch to 1 1/8, and the little smaller guy goes from 3/16 to 5/16, and those are both outside diameter. Now, when you are cutting, for example, when you're cutting pipe up to 1 1/8 with the with this 101 model right here, if you're cutting hard copper, it's going to be a lot easier than if you're cutting soft copper. That is one thing I have noticed when working with refrigeration piping. Is the hard copper, you're gonna spin it quite a few times to get it to cut through, but it's not as hard as cutting through the soft copper. Generally, when you get a 1 1/8 soft copper line set, it's all coiled up and you have to uncoil it, and it can be hard to get a little compact pipe cutter to go and spin around it without what we call dog walking, whereas you make a cut or you start to cut the copper, and as you turn and tighten, the cutting wheel just kind of walks its way down the copper. That is one thing I have noticed with these compact pipe cutters. It's not just the Ridgid ones. I noticed it with my Milwaukee one that I have as well, that I believe I reviewed here on the channel. But we'll go ahead and take a look at the 101 here. Like I said, it is a aluminum cast on it, which is nice, so it's not quite as heavy as just the standard cast ones, kind of like the Milwaukee ones. So it is nice, lightweight and compact. You do have a couple rollers for rolling that spin around the copper, and then you have a cutting wheel on the inside of the tool, and the bit is held in by a little retention clip. All you have to do is just kind of pop it out if you need to change the bit on here. Can't say that's something I've had to do recently, but on some of my larger pipe cutters that I've used quite extensively, I have had to replace at least one so far. But that is the little Ridgid 101, and like I said, this guy cuts from 1/4 inch all the way up to 1 1/8. And you do get a spare blade there on the back of the handle, which is nice. So if you do happen to break one and you don't have any spare blades on you, and you haven't used this one yet, you can always just remember that there always is one there on the inside of the handle, just held down by a Phillips screw. The functionality on it is fairly nice. It's fairly smooth as well. It's just, like a standard pipe cutter, you open up and close it down. It's nice and smooth. And then coming over to this side, you have the back side of the pin that holds the cutter in, and then you have some more information about the tool. You got your model number and these different sizes of copper pipe that it will cut. So for you guys that aren't here in the States and use the metric system, this guy goes from 6 to 28 millimeter. I would assume that is for outside diameter. I'm not sure how you guys measure pipe over there, but that's kind of how we do it here. And then you have the Model 104, the little tiny small guy. It's pretty much the exact same as the large one. You got that little retention clip and pin that holds your cutting wheel on. And then, like the back sides, it's pretty much the same tool. The only thing that's different about this versus the 101 is you don't have that spare blade on the inside of your knob to tighten and loosen or to open and close the tool. So if you do end up breaking a blade for this guy, you're kind of going to be SOL. And you're going to have to track down another blade. I don't think, at least I haven't seen them at Home Depot where you can get them. I have seen some spare blades, though, at plumbing supply houses that we go to. So you might want to keep a couple of those around if this is something you're using on a daily basis and you're wearing out and you accidentally break the blade. But for me, not something I use on a daily basis, so I don't really have to worry about that blade breaking, and I only use it for cutting copper. So these two blades in here probably last me quite a bit of time. And then again, this little guy is just nice and smooth, open and close on the operation of the tool. So we'll go ahead and zoom out here and bring in some copper pipe. I'm not sure what size this is. It's just kind of leftover scrap from a line set I did a while ago. We'll go ahead and tighten this guy down. and kind of show you how the tool works. So for me, I give it a couple spins for the first few cut just to get a nice deep groove there on the tool, and then after that, every time I make a full rotation, I tighten the tool down to make a deeper cut. That's just how I do it. Some people may only go a few turn or a quarter turn and want to tighten it again, but to each their own. And it cut through that pipe like it was nothing. Again, soft copper is going to be a lot easier to cut through, at least from what I've noticed. Soft copper is a lot easier to cut through than hard copper. It takes a little less effort. So I'll bring in, I believe this is 3/8, and we'll go ahead and cut some of that with the small little pipe cutter, and you just adjust it, and if I can get it to the size I need, go like that, and we'll go ahead and make that couple rotations just to get that groove cut in, and then just tighten it up every time we go around there on the copper, and we should be cut through in no time. And it's just a fairly simple tool to use. If you're doing heating and cooling, probably something I would consider having in your arsenal. Compared to larger ones. Now, you are going to need larger pipe cutters if you're doing heating and cooling, but these smaller compact ones do come. I feel I use them a lot more than my larger ones. I generally use my larger ones if I'm going like over 1.1/8, like 1.5 or like 2-inch pipe, things like that. And we just cut that little guy without any issue. Now, these also, the one thing I find these very useful for when I'm for heating and cooling is when you're doing up a line set, whether it is for a mini split or if it is for, just a condensing unit on the outside of the house, or if it's on a roof, wherever it is. Typically, your larger line set is going to be insulated, and then your 3/8 isn't going to be insulated. So these pipe cutters do come in handy to hold back that insulation, so when you're brazing, you don't burn the insulation and ruin the insulation that's on the line set. Like I said, you'll probably use this Model 101 to hold back the line set on the suction side. Typically, like I said, you don't really have insulation on the liquid side for like a small residential unit. Now, if you're doing like huge commercial work and you're doing large refrigeration systems, the liquid and suction side will have insulation on them, and you'll be brazing them. So there have been instances where we've done some units for clean rooms, and both the suction and the liquid line were insulated, and I used both of these to hold back the insulation while we were brazing it together. But overall, these are a couple nice pipe cutters from Ridgid. I picked both of these up from my local Home Depot. You can order them online, and they also have a couple other different sizes you can buy that probably cut maybe some smaller diameter copper tubing, or you could probably find whatever one you are looking for if you have a specific size of copper pipe that you are working with. But with that being said, that's all I have for this video. As always, there will be some links in the description below that take you over to the product page for both of the tools listed here, and below that will be some information on where you can pick these guys up if you don't want to pick them up in the store and you want to just buy them online and have them shipped to your house. But with that being said, that's all I have for this video. Thanks for watching.